The following program contains adult content and sexual themes. Viewer discretion is advised. And it contains murder. Lots and lots of murder.
You stinking bastard.
People tell me, hey, you're gonna go die and go to hell. At least I'm not alone.
Down for 911, where's your emergency?
Oh, this is Sandy. For 31 Rook, Black Plymouth Road.
What's the problem?
Send the police.
And he goes, don't be a hero, mate. And I said, I'm not trying to be a hero, but the police are coming.
One in the chest, one in the head. Fired by Detective Sergeant Roger Rogerson.
I was branching out. That's when the cannibalism started, eating of the heart and the arm muscle.
I would have nailed Carl with his hands to a coffee table and just pulled it out of his backside. Carl Williams is a wobbly-bottomed little cherub-faced little boy whose life would be.
I'd harm someone each time I'd kill someone. There'd be an enormous amount, especially at first, enormous amount of horror, guilt, remorse afterwards. But then that impulse to do it again would come back even stronger.
Oh, no way, dude. Really? Is that how you want to start the episode?
I don't know, probably not. I was just trying to get it out.
Save it for the mics, man.
Well, the mics are on, actually.
Well, good.
Hi, I'm Bunny Black.
And I'm Tara Saraban.
And we do Bloody Murder.
We're a weekly true crime podcast focusing on some of the lesser-known serial killers and crime stories from Australia.
And indeed, around the globe.
What will you be covering this week, Barney?
I'm going to talk about a 9-day rampage in where 5 people got killed in a 2-state murder spree.
Yeah, that ended in a siege.
How about you, Tara?
Well, I'm going to be talking about a Mexican serial killer who slipped across the US border and roamed the country by freight train, robbing and murdering people who live near the railway tracks.
Wow.
Yeah, not a good time to live near the railway tracks.
No, don't trust a hobo.
No, I don't know if we're allowed to say hobo anymore, are we?
I think hobo's okay.
Really? Damn, because I changed it to transient because I thought hobo was like prostitute and it was like one of those words that made you like sound like a nasty piece of work for saying it.
Hobo is also my least favourite font.
There's a font called Hobo.
Yeah, it's pretty shit.
Yeah, does it ride rail cars and break into homes and kill people and eat their toast?
Probably.
Well, no wonder you don't like it, because that's shit.
That is a bit shit. Hey, before we get started, we like to do a little bit of listener feedback first.
Indeed. What about that tweet from Jim, huh?
Yeah, he tweeted us a pic of him rocking a Bloody Murder t-shirt.
Yeah, and he had a really cool serious murder face on in the pic.
He got a red one.
He did.
It looked good.
It's very bloody and very murdery.
We've got lots of new designs on our merch shop. We've got a Travis the Chimp, a Topsy the Elephant, a Lindy Chamberlain.
There is. I'm not. I question that one sometimes.
A dingo ate my baby.
Well, the thing is that a dingo actually did eat her baby.
I know, it's terrible. And of course, there's mugs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of things. But yeah, please, if you get a t-shirt, do send us a picture because it's good to see them out in the wild.
And if you'd like to get some of our merch, it's on. It's in the liner notes, in the notes of this show. The link.
It absolutely is. Everything in one place, like a champ. Michelle Jones actually posted a meme on Facebook that said, the more people I meet, the more I understand serial killers, which I've got to say I can relate to as well. Though I did ask her if she just wanted to fuck them as they died, and because, that's pretty harsh. She said as long as they aren't dead yet, because that's where I draw the line. So
she's not as weird as you. Is that what we've established?
No, we've established she's not as weird as some serial killers who do indeed like to do some necrophiliac action.
Hey, Tara.
Hey, Bonnie.
We've had people suggesting cases to us on Twitter and through email.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Keep them coming as we will look into them and see if they might work for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We do look into them.
We love the feedback.
Love it. We've also had a couple of good reviews this week. One of them was called Throw Me at a Spider, which harks back to an early episode. And that was by Mettled. Thank you for that one.
We had another great review from Mushla. Yeah. Which is nice. Thanks. Keep them coming.
Thanks very much for doing that, people. We appreciate it.
Now, before we get started, we probably should thank our patrons.
We should indeed.
Sean Muscles Whelan.
Kelly, there is no strange smell in my attic. Bryden.
David, you can't make me wear pants lady.
Jim, if that is your real name, DeGriz.
Manners are... Bedside manners
bedtime manners. It's a little bit less sexy, isn't it? It involves being read a fairy tale. Kinnan 10, my ladyboy cunt friend.
Ab height.
You got nothing funny to say about that,
Well,
do you?
ab hate. She got love and hate on her
knuckles.
on her knuckles.
I'm sure she does.
Cool.
Frankie J. Sakara.
Frankie J. Sakara.
She's an avid gardener, and I think there might be a few shallow graves in her backyard.
And Holly Andrew, I hear she holds a knife behind her back while she smiles innocently.
That's how I like to picture her anyway.
Yeah. And if you would like to support us, visit our Podbean page and click on the Patreon button. There are some sweet, sweet benefits to be had.
Yes, and extra content now because we got our shit together.
And, of course, all those links are in the show notes.
Indeed. All in the one place.
Okay.
Like a champ.
All right, then.
Should I launch?
Launch.
All right. Angel Maturino Resendez was born on August 1st, 1960 in Mexico. Not a lot is known of his childhood, other than that his mother sent him off to live with another family, and they paid very little attention to him, mostly leaving him to wander the streets as if he were homeless. He also had several childhood head injuries, which could have played a role in the development of his antisocial personality. His mother, Virginia, testified that her son was dropped on his head by a midwife just after he was born. That's some pretty shit midwifery right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of don't do that, people.
Yeah, that's midwifery, not full wifery.
Midfoolery.
Yeah.
He got into glue sniffing and drinking from a young age, which also wouldn't have helped the development of his brain.
No, you shouldn't glue sniff until after you're 18.
Yeah. Yeah, because then it's fine. You should totally get into it then. I used to like sniffing glue as a child, but like craft glue. No, it didn't get me high or anything. I just thought it smelled good. There was one we had here called Clag. That was a good one. I love Clag.
And it looked like spooge.
Well, yeah, of course it did. That was part of the attraction.
I once got slapped for smelling petrol.
Were you doing it in someone's car?
No, it was. I was at this footy oval, and it was this. We were sitting in our car, and I got out, and I was just sniffing where the petrol goes into.
Did you take off the cap?
And I just went, oh, this smells pretty cool. I might smell it a bit more. And my dad came out and go, what are you doing? I don't smell that.
No, you're not supposed to smell it when your family's there.
What the bloody hell's going on here then?
Right.
Which was my favourite dad catchphrase.
That actually reminds me of your poo story.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that story.
No, not going to do that story?
No.
I thought you'd be into telling a childhood poo story. I guess you'll have to wait for that one. That's a shame. I just fluffed everyone and now they're going to be let down.
Yeah. Oh, well. So Angel was sniffing glue. His first name's Angel, right?
Yeah, but they pronounce it differently, almost like Angle. I guess because he's so demonic, they couldn't bring themselves to say Angel. Anyway, I'm going to call him Resendez because that is his real last name, though he went by like a billion aliases. He had a long criminal record before the series of known murders began in 1997. Former FBI profiler and my boy, John Douglas, studied the case. And he said that he probably started killing somewhere in his late 20s, and he may have killed people like himself initially, males and transients. I'm just going to be talking about the 8 murders that he was actually charged with, but he has admitted to committing other murders. Most of his crimes took place in central Texas, but he's suspected of having killed as far north as Kentucky and Illinois. So, yeah, he was touring.
I do declare.
Oh, yeah. So his MO was always the same. He illegally rode in rail cars and would pick victims that lived near to the tracks. If available, he often stole vehicles from his victims and drove away, but he always ended up stowing away on a freight train. And he did some widespread crime this way.
Wow.
Yeah. Resendez first came to the attention of the U.S. Justice Department when he was only 16, and he was caught in Brownsville, Texas, trying to cross the border from Mexico in 1976. He was deported 2 months later, and it was the first of numerous run-ins with U.S. authorities, and also numerous deportments. The dude was constantly being deported. Resendez In August 1976, he returned to the US, and a month later, INS agents located him in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and yet again in October, this time in McAllen, Texas. No one knows when he slipped back into the US, but in September of 79, he was sentenced to a 20-year prison term for auto theft and assault in Miami. He was paroled within 6 years and deported back to Mexico again. Over the next decade, Resendez was apprehended and tried in Texas for falsely claiming citizenship, and he did 18 months in prison for that one.
Oh, you can go to jail for that.
Yeah, you can. The way he did it.
Hey, I'm American. No, you're not. Go to jail.
Well, you're not in America, though, are you? So, nothing's going to happen to you here if you say that. I'm just going to look at you like you're a dick, but there's nothing unusual about that, is there?
That's pretty much your normal way you look at me.
It's just a sad fact by this point. Citizenship. In 88, he was arrested for possessing a concealed weapon in New Orleans this time, and he received an 18-month sentence, but was paroled after a year. And he also received a 30-month sentence for attempting to defraud Social Security in St. Louis. He gets around. In 92, he pled guilty to burglary charges in New Mexico, which got him another 18-month prison term, but again, paroled after a year.
Revolving door.
Yeah, big time. In 95, he was apprehended in Santa Fe in a rail yard for trespassing and carrying a firearm. And for the last infraction, he was deported yet again. In fact, after every incarceration and in between them, he was dumped across the border so many times that he apparently resembled a boomerang.
Really?
Yep. Threw it, came back, threw it, came back. Not the way I throw boomerangs. The way I throw them, they just keep going and then you lose them in the grass.
I threw a boomerang when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's the only time I've done it.
And it came back, but it hit me in the head.
Did it really come back?
It did.
Wow, and hit you in the head.
It hit me in the head.
Oh, I wish that people had all those phone cameras back then. Imagine having that footage.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely. You could show it to your kids and they could laugh at young Barney.
No, they respect me.
No, I thought you were going to say they already have a lot to laugh at about you.
No, they don't. No,
they
respect
do.
me.
Oh, right. Okay, I'm sure. So 2 years after his last recorded deportation, he materialized in Kentucky.
What, like Terminator in a ball of lightning? Was he nude?
Yeah, he was nude and Terminator-y.
Give me your claws.
Yeah. That was a beautiful, beautiful Terminator accent. All right, we're on. So on August 29th in 1997, Christopher Mayer, a 21-year-old junior at the University of Kentucky, was killed as he and his 23-year-old girlfriend, Holly Dunn Pendleton, were hanging out near the railway tracks. I have a statement from Holly describing what happened that terrible night. It was an August night in Lexington, Kentucky. My boyfriend Chris and I had been at a busy university party and we decided to get some fresh air. We wandered to the railway line a few blocks away and sat chatting by the tracks. As we stood to leave, a man appeared from behind an electrical box blocking our way. There was nothing particularly distinctive about him. He was in his late 30s with olive skin and dark hair, but his eyes unsettled me. They were expressionless. "Give me your money," he demanded in a Mexican accent. Before we had time to react, he was next to us, holding something sharp against Chris's neck. It looked like an ice pick. "We don't have any cash," I said. "Take our credit cards." Instead, he grabbed Chris's backpack and using the straps tied his hands behind his back. I could have run away, but I refused to leave Chris. The man bound my hands with my belt, then threw both of us into a ditch that ran alongside the track. Ripping his shirt, he tied our legs and gagged us. It seemed unreal. 5 minutes earlier, I'd been laughing and flirting. Now I was frozen with terror. He kept stepping back up to the tracks as if watching out for someone. In those brief seconds, I worked my hands free and pulled off my gag. I took Chris's out too, but just then the man returned carrying a huge rock. Without a word, he dropped it on Chris's head. Chris fell silent and began to gurgle. "Turn his head to the side so he doesn't choke," I begged. "He's gone," the man replied casually. He began to tug at my jeans, and I realized with horror that he planned to rape me. I started to kick and scream, but was silenced when he stabbed the ice pick into the side of my neck. I have no idea how long the attack lasted for. My mind drifted up and out of my body, but afterwards I begged him to put my trousers back on. If they were going to find my body, I didn't want to be naked. Bizarrely, he agreed. He then began to whack me across the head with something, a plank of wood, I think. I didn't feel pain, just an immense pressure with each blow, and I slipped into unconsciousness. When I woke up, the man had left. I staggered towards a nearby house covered in blood. I was taken to hospital with a broken jaw, smashed eye socket, an inch-deep stab wound to my neck, and many cuts and bruises. My parents and sister rushed to my side. Chris is gone, isn't he? I asked. My father just nodded.
Ugh.
I know.
What an awful experience. She's
Absolutely
lucky to get
terrible.
away alive.
Yeah, well, she's the only one that he attacked that did get away alive.
Right.
And so she was able to help convict him in the end.
Great.
Yeah, so at least there's something good could come out of all that horror. So October 4th, 1998 in New Spring, Texas, it was a cool autumn evening. An unsuspecting 81-year-old Leafy Mason was hammered to death with a tire iron by someone who entered her home through a window. Her front door faced the Kansas City Southern Rail line tracks, which were only 50 yards away. Not a good time to be near the tracks. On December 17th, 1998 in Houston, 39-year-old Dr. Claudia Benton was a well-liked and respected doctor who lived in a house near the railway lines that run through suburban West University Place. She lived there with her husband and 2 daughters, but they went on a trip to Arizona to visit family before Christmas, and she stayed behind as she had a presentation due the next day. An intruder broke into her home, raped her, bludgeoned her repeatedly with a blunt instrument, and stabbed her. When the police recovered her stolen Jeep Cherokee in San Antonio, they found fingerprints on the steering column that matched those of drifter Resendez. He was a known illegal alien who had over a dozen aliases, and he also left DNA behind at the scene. So although he's difficult to figure out where he's going next, he is pretty sloppy in that he's leaving evidence behind.
What year is this again?
That was 1998.
Okay.
Yeah, Christopher got killed in 97. So crime scene photographs showed a bloody butcher's knife near Benton's body, and police identified a statuette that likely was used to hit her in the head 19 times, repeatedly fracturing her skull. They said it was overkill, massive overkill. On May 2nd, 1999, in Colorado County, Weimar minister Norman Cernick, 46, and his wife Karen Cernick, 47, they were considered pillars of their community. They were involved in the church and were known as friendly and generous people.
Do-gooders.
Yeah, big time. When they didn't show up for church services on Sunday, people from church went to check on them, and they found them beaten to death with a 12-pound sledgehammer in their bedroom.
Oh, that's a bit of overkill.
Yeah. Well, their house was near the railway lines, and Karen had also been sexually assaulted. Ouch. Yeah, because this guy's just like going for gold. Investigators said evidence and DNA found in Cernick's home linked Resendez to the case.
Right, so he left more DNA.
Yeah. He wasn't really cleaning up after himself. The Cernick's stolen pickup truck was found on the 28th of May by police in San Antonio. Due to the panic created by the murders, the police tried to assure the townspeople that another attack in that area was highly unlikely, as the perpetrator would surely have moved on. But unfortunately, they were wrong. On June 4th, 1999, in Fayette County, 73-year-old widow Josephine Konivka was an avid cook and doting grandmother. She was killed in her bed by blows to the head with a pointed pickaxe. She lived in a farmhouse near the train tracks, and it was around 3 miles from Weimar, where the Reverend and Mrs. Cernick were killed.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Imagine your last moments being like that.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you. So her car had been tampered with, but he wasn't able to find the keys, so he didn't steal it. But of course, he left fingerprints. He's pretty much like scattering his DNA and fingerprints like confetti all around America. On June 5th, 1999, in Houston, Naomi Dominguez, a 26-year-old school teacher, was found beaten to death in her home near the railway line, of course. She died from a blow to the head, and her white 1993 Honda Civic was stolen. Fear in the area was reaching a fever pitch. Many people who lived near the railway tracks left their homes to stay with friends or relatives. I think that would probably be a good idea under the circumstances. Every sound of an approaching train brought more fear to people's hearts. It became like a really ominous noise.
Yeah. So he wasn't on one of those things with the levers on both sides that go, and you need 2 people to do it?
Yeah, and it's often in cartoons, right?
And often in cartoons?
No, he wasn't on one of those. He just stowed away.
Do they even use those these days?
My great-grandfather actually got killed on one of those, I believe.
No shit.
Yeah, because Irish. They worked on the railways, and a train came around and got him.
Really? And he was on one of those...
Yeah, he was on one of those things.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it was actually speculated that he might have done it on purpose because he knew when the trains came. Or maybe he...
Right.
I don't know.
I've had enough of this life.
There was a lot of speculation.
I might just go straight into the train.
I'm sure that's exactly what he was thinking, and he sounded kind of perky. He was like, eh.
I would like to meet my great-granddaughter, Tara.
Oh, right. Yeah, look, he's probably okay without doing that.
No.
I don't know. I didn't know the dude. So, trains. On June 15th in 99 in Gorman, Illinois, Gorham, in fact, an intruder broke into a mobile home, tied 80-year-old George Morber to a chair and shot him in the back of the head with his own shotgun. He then clubbed Morber's daughter, Caroline Frederick, 52, to death. And of course, their house was only 100 yards from a railway track. The next day, a passerby spotted Frederick's red pickup truck in Cairo, Illinois, 60 miles south of Gorman, being driven by a man matching Resendez's description. He's so mobile and murderous.
He's on tour.
Yeah, he's touring hard.
Get a T-shirt.
Oh no. I don't want to go to this tour. Most of Resendez's victims were found covered with a blanket, and none of them were tall or of large stature, as the killer himself was quite a tiny little dude.
Short ass, eh?
Short ass, mate. But he may as well have been a fucking giant for all the terror that he struck in the hearts of the previously pretty chill communities.
Yeah.
Sentiments throughout pretty much echoed the words of Mayor Bernie Kosler of Weimar, the little Texas burg where the Simics and Mrs. Kanivka were slain. The stores around here, he said, have sold out of pistols.
Well, we're just about sold out of pistols.
The stores around here, we're sold out of pistols. I know we're always murdering people's accents, but a guy on Facebook, the guy who's very karate looking, I can't remember his name right now, but apparently he's been trying to do an Australian accent.
Really?
Yeah. So at least we're inspiring other people to like mangle our accent too.
Well, you just need an entry word, you know?
You stinking bastard.
Yeah, pig's ass.
That'd be my entry word. You stinking bastard. If I ever attempted an Australian accent. Though right now I have a cold and I feel like I sound like the fucking nanny.
Yeah, and you gave it to me, thanks.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have licked inside my mouth.
No more bum tongue.
No more bum tongue. Or maybe we didn't do enough bum tongue. I don't know.
Not enough bum tongue.
Or too much bum tongue. I can't remember which. Is that how you catch a cold? By sticking your tongue in someone's butt?
Absolutely.
Good to know. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I know that you are. So, yeah, good to know. All right, thank you for that, Dr. Barney. So Resendez's motives for murder seem to be alcohol, drugs, a place to hide out, and of course money. He raped, but sex seems almost secondary, according to former FBI profiler and my man, John Douglas. Douglas recalls Resendez as just a bungling crook, very disorganised, but one whose own disorganisation worked well for him. Because his trail was haphazard, because he himself didn't know where he was heading next, this directionless drifting form of operation kept Resendez inadvertently ever the more elusive. He was so disorganised that you couldn't predict him.
That's what John Douglas said.
It is what John Douglas said.
Yeah, I don't recall there ever being an incident of bum tongue.
John Douglas doesn't sound like he's from the South, doesn't he? No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
Sounds like you're trying to do the Colonel from History Dweebs.
Oh, I wouldn't dare impersonate him.
I don't believe. Well, he sounds like Morgan Freeman. Okay, so that made him elusive. In the heat of the intensive manhunt for the murderer, John Douglas described what appeared to be the killer's simple but deadly agenda. When he hitches a ride on the freight train, he doesn't necessarily know where the train is going. But when he gets off, having a background as a burglar, he's able to scope out the area, do a little surveillance, make sure he breaks into the right house where there won't be anyone to give him a run for his money. He can enter a home complete with cutting glass and reaching in and undoing locks. He'll look through the windows and see who's occupying it. The guy's only 5'7", very small. In fact, the early weapons were primarily blunt force trauma weapons of opportunity found at the scenes. He has to case them out and make sure he can put himself in a win-win situation. State and city law enforcement agencies did what little they could to find the elusive monster. Freight yard security was stepped up, and transients by the boxcar loads were hauled into local jails for positive identification and questioning.
Hey, hobo, we don't like your font.
We don't like your font around here.
Yeah.
We don't like your kind of font around here.
That's right.
Many freight trains were stopped and searched. Engine to caboose.
I'll like to search your engine to your caboose. No.
Oh, no, you wouldn't. All you're going to find there is snot and bad ideas.
Yeah.
Hangouts for transients became targets for raids. Loiterers about town were hustled into police stations for questioning, but quickly released when it was proven that they were not Resendez. In June of 1999, the FBI placed the railroad killer on the top of its 10... he wasn't on the top. He was on its top 10 most wanted list. The Bureau's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, compared...
I bet Ed Sheeran's in there like 5 times already.
Ed Sheeran's wanted by the FBI?
Oh, he's like 5 times in any list.
Oh, right. Is that just how the world works now?
Yeah.
I've managed to kind of ignore that he exists. I don't even dislike him. I wouldn't know if I encountered his music. I'm just not plugged in, man.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I'm fucking Amish. Can't you tell?
Yeah.
Don't I sound fucking Amish to you?
You do.
Yeah, and I look damn Amish too. So anyway, VICAP compared all of the elements of the alleged Resendez killings to come up with matches linking him to all of them. The FBI's initial reward of $50,000 for information leading to Resendez's capture escalated within days to $125,000. In the meantime, Jackson County, Illinois, officially charged Resendez with the Gorman killings after his fingerprints were documented. Angry authorities in Louisville, where Christopher Mayer became the first of the railroad killer's known victims, handed out wallet-sized photos of the murderer, urging citizens to notify the police immediately if they even think that they've seen
Put
him.
that photo in your wallet.
Well, yeah, you could carry that around.
Throw your kids' photos out.
And put that in. Pretend he's your boyfriend.
Ugh.
Yeah. This is my murdery hobo boyfriend. If you live near the train tracks, maybe don't.
Live around the train tracks.
Yeah, if you live near the train tracks, maybe don't live near the train tracks. So Don C. Clark, special agent in charge of the FBI's Houston office, coordinating the nationwide manhunt, called Resendez a very dangerous and violent person, explaining why the Mexican national and border jumper was placed on the infamous top 10 list. He's demonstrated he can use almost any kind of object to take a human life in a very violent manner.
What, like a jellyfish?
Yes, he could use a jellyfish or a breast implant. Well, he used a statue at one point.
Right.
He often, the sledgehammer's kind of obvious. There's not any
What about a beanbag? Could you take someone out with a beanbag?
You'll probably smother them somehow with a beanbag.
Okay, I'm trying to think of objects just to throw you.
Yeah, I know you are. Maybe he beat someone to death with a small white porcelain elephant.
Really? Is that what's coming up?
Well, it's what's right in front of me.
What about
I
a
can
gun?
see it.
Oh, hang on. No, I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah, you probably could have used a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very clever. 200 agents were assigned round the clock in locations where Resendez was known to have struck and where he might strike next. Of course, areas of concentration included freight yards and rail depots. We have the train tracks, Clark summarised.
Good.
Good. On July 7th, the FBI felt they'd made a good move in recruiting the help of Resendez's de facto wife, Julieta Reyes, whom they brought into Houston from her hometown of Rodeo, Mexico, 250 miles below the border. She would like to do everything she can to get her husband to turn himself into the appropriate authorities, reported Clark. Surprisingly, Julieta turned over to the FBI 93 pieces of jewellery that she'd been mailed from her husband while he was abroad.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Mailing someone your victim's jewellery is the height of romance, isn't it? She was sure that they belonged to his victims, and she was right.
Trophies.
Yeah. And then you get your your girlfriend to wear them. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But this seems like a common thing for these fuckers to do.
Absolutely.
These pricks get off on that shit. Relatives of Naomi Dominguez quickly identified 13 of the pieces, and George Benton, who was Dr. Claudia Benton's husband, claimed several other pieces as her property. So criminal mastermind, not so much.
No.
A fatal slip-up meant that Resendez continued to elude the law at every turn. John Douglas, who had been with the FBI for 25 years at that point, rued the fact that the manhunt for the accused killer had been hampered by the lack of a coordinated computer system that would allow law enforcement officials to compare notes instantly and determine patterns.
Like bum tongue.
Like bum tongue. What a great computer system that is. The lack of such a system proved to be even more problematic to the manhunt than Douglas could have predicted at the time. Yeah, you ready for a frustrating story about how he slipped through their fucking grasp?
No? Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, should I just skip that bit?
Maybe.
Maybe's a pretty good answer. I'll take maybe. Maybe, oh no, don't go down that path, Shara. On June 2nd, the Border Patrol apprehended Resendez near El Paso as he was attempting to cross the border illegally yet again. It's like his favourite thing. While he was in custody, the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service performed a computer search on him, checking his fingerprints and photo against a possible fugitives list. Because the system failed to identify him as a wanted man, the INS deported him back to fucking Mexico. Yeah. Have a sandwich and go back to Mexico.
Well, that's a bit of a fuck up.
Yeah, well, it proved to be much more than just an embarrassment. After his release, Resendez immediately found his way back into the States. Boomerang. Within 48 hours, he killed both Dominguez and Convica near Houston, then Morba and his daughter in Illinois. So, like, yeah. More than just egg on your face, mate. That's blood on your face. 4 innocent people murdered over a computer glitch. Our computers told us that he was nothing of lookout material, explained a supervisor at the border. We really wish he had been in the system so we could have caught him. But the error could not be totally blamed on modern technology. On July 1st, a month after the mistake, a Justice Department representative admitted that the West University Place Police Department had notified the INS about Resendez back in December, right after the death of Dr. Benton. INS Commissioner Doris Messer announced an internal investigation into the matter. It was a fucking huge fuck up. So the manhunt for Resendez involved more than the physical knocking on locked doors and pacing through dusty freight yards. As with any manhunt the FBI conducts, a lot of time it was spent getting to know the type of man for whom they were searching. This includes studying the culprit's criminal background and social history. Continuously being sent back to sent back to Mexico by US deportation officers who found him in the country illegally, he became angry at the population at large. What America represents here is this wealthy country where he keeps getting kicked out and he just can't make ends meet. That's what they said.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of immigrants feel that way. But...
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think they're just sort of speculating on his motive as opposed to going, that's what they're all going to do. Although there's probably a paranoia. Isn't that why they want to build the fucking wall?
Though he always robbed them, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. He'd often, hang out and, eat plums and make toast and shit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Good guy. Good little shorty. So, coupled with these feelings, these inadequacies, and fueled by the fact he's known to take alcohol and drugs, lowers his inhibitions to go out and kill, apparently. Doesn't make me kill people, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to kill that bottle of whiskey that's in the other
fucking
room
hell,
later.
man. Yeah.
I've got a terrible cold. I think it'll help.
Yeah, we both have terrible colds. I've been feeling like I've been so whingy just inside my own head that I've been getting annoyed at myself for how whingy I am to me. It's been like one of those things where you fight yourself.
Well, what's the old saying? You whiskey, you cold, and you starve of flu, and
you bum tongue the shit out of syphilis.
Yeah, that's it. That's
an Australian saying.
It is.
Yep. We live by that
Get
here.
that on a t-shirt.
Try and fit that on a fucking badge. So in early June, a young Texas Ranger by the name of Drew Carter conceived the notion that perhaps Resendez's sister Manuela, whom Resendez was said to idolize, might be instrumental in bringing about his brother's surrender.
Well, I think we should be talking to his sister.
Yeah, my sister, she's very important in my life, and I feel like maybe his is too. Oh, that wasn't good. I have probably just offended the whole of America now. Why I do international serial killers is I'm trying to work my way around the whole country and offend every single fucking country.
Nice.
Uh-huh. Yeah? Do you see my cunning plan?
Do you have a world map and you put pins on it or something?
I do. I have different coloured pins for the level of offence that I've created.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to go overseas by the end of the year, I reckon.
You'll be on the no-fly list.
I will. I'm just going to maybe not pick on Iceland so that I could go there or something. I'm just going to keep the one country. It's probably lucky I don't do more Australian stuff or I get deported out of here.
Pig's ass.
Pig's ass, motherfucker. So he contacted Manuela, the sister, to assess the practicality of his plan. And she was fearing that her brother might eventually be killed by the authorities or worried that he would kill again. So she promised Carter that she would do everything humanly possible to help. Go Manuela. The FBI had traced Resendez's whereabouts to Mexico, where he'd absconded not long after the double murder in Illinois. He was believed at that point to be in Juarez.
Ooh.
Sergeant Carter explained to Manuela that he was working with the FBI and legal prosecutors in Harris County to offer the fairest deal he could to her brother. If he surrendered himself, Carter told her, Resendez would be assured of 3 things: his personal safety while in jail, regular visits so that his wife, sisters and others could visit him, and a psychological evaluation.
And double chocolate rations.
Yeah, and a ready supply of bum tongue. Yeah, that was 4 things.
Right.
In effect, Carter's weeks-long relationship-building effort created solid steps towards working a miracle. That is, getting a serial killer to turn himself in. They do not do a lot of that, turning themselves in.
No, they don't.
No, not at all. Not really their scene. So on Monday, July the 12th, Manuela received a fax from the district attorney's office in Harris County, putting into writing the agreement about the bum tongue. The offer was then passed on to another relative who acted as an emissary between his sister in Albuquerque and Resendez in Mexico. That evening, word came from Juarez that the railroad killer would surrender. So the long-awaited moment was scheduled for 9 a.m. the following morning. So Carter was there ahead of time, accompanied by Manuela and her pastor to act as a spiritual guide. They met on a bridge connecting Zaragoza, Mexico with El Paso. When I saw that face, there was a little bit of excitement there because I finally said, "This is going to happen," Carter recalls. He watched Resendez alight from the truck in dirty jeans and muddy boots. As he neared him, he stuck out his hand, I stuck out my hand, and we shook hands. Way to shake hands with the devil, mofo.
Yeah.
Carter, who pulled off one of the greatest arrests in Texas Ranger history, refuses to take full credit for his coup. He cited the support of the FBI and other law enforcement and county representatives who helped establish the terms of the agreement that convinced the railroad killer to cross that bridge.
I'm just a humble motherfucker with a big-ass dick.
Yeah. No, he was humble about, getting the guy to surrender, but he was incredibly arrogant about the size of his huge dick.
Right.
Yeah, thick and long.
The hubris on this man.
Thick and long. That's what Carter said. He was like, he also strangely said, "My anaconda don't want none unless you've got buns, hun."
I think you just said that.
No, I'm pretty sure that was his official statement. So he cited the support of, all the others who helped establish the terms of agreement that convinced the railroad killer to come and surrender. His surrender brought relief to the victims' families and friends. The Dallas-Fort Worth Internet Service reported that several hundred people in Weimar attended a ceremony to pray and give thanks for the suspect's capture. As the sun set and a train whistle blew in the background, residents of the South Texas town hugged and cried. But sometimes anger dies hard. I wish Resendez the worst, says murder victim Josephine Kanivka's daughter. He's destroyed so much of our lives. Law enforcement officials were a bit perplexed as to why the railroad killer surrendered so freely to a state that has executed more people than any other. One possible speculation for Resendez's easy surrender was that he feared bounty hunters who had gathered in Mexico to collect the reward. Because, they'll just shoot you.
Oh, yeah, they got mullets and they'll just shoot you.
Oh, yeah, they have mullets and bad tattoos. And
they
will just shoot you. And then they'll get the money and they'll get more bad tattoos and a blonder mullet.
A blonder mullet.
Mm-hmm. And that's not good for anybody, really.
Hey, can I ask you something, Tara?
Sure.
Why didn't he negotiate, death sentence be taken off the table?
I'm not sure that he was capable of negotiating that, personally.
Yeah.
There's way too much Texas murder going on. Way too many fingerprints. Way too much DNA.
Sure.
Also, I don't think that he was a legal mastermind either. He just wanted to ride the rails, steal shit, kill people, rape them, eat toast. He was a simple man. It's also believed that he wanted to avoid being caught for the murders that he committed in Mexico, because there's no way he only just did the 8 that he was charged with. We're looking at homicides we haven't cleared that appear to fit his methods, stated Steve Slater, an advisor to the Chihuahua State Public Safety Department. He has family in Juarez, including his mother, He's been through here a lot. We certainly have railroad tracks and bodies found by railroad tracks. Anyway, none of that panned out. He was charged with the 8 murders in America, and he was found guilty of the capital murder of Dr. Claudia Benton and was sentenced to death for that. So they didn't actually bother doing a long, drawn-out thing for everyone else.
Well, you can only kill a man once, can't you?
Which is funny because, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've died a couple of times. So on June 27th, 2006, he was executed by lethal injection. And it's interesting because I was actually researching this on June 27th, and I was like, ooh, anniversary. Happy Death Day.
So, uno momento, por favor. How long was he on death row for?
So
5 years
that's
or so?
2006. He was charged, it was like 5 or 6 years. Probably more like 6 or 7 to be.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, they often end up on death row for a hell of a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But
well,
yeah, so he's dead now.
No means. And Mexican.
Oh, yeah, Mexican and broke.
You're not
Yeah,
gonna be
and
on
also
death row
like
for long.
incredibly guilty, like not even vaguely not guilty.
Oh.
No other theory as to what would have happened. No, like, there's not enough evidence. Like, this guy was just really
but what about his
red-headed.
mental state?
His mental state, there was some talk of that, but he was found fit to stand trial. Although, like, sometimes he banged on about being part angel, and so he was never going to die. And he thought that he was, like, possibly... like doing the Lord's work by cleansing the world of people who live near train tracks or some shit. None of it was really taken to be believed. And it's hard to know because so many people pull the nutter card when they
really
get
do.
done for murder.
Yeah.
So, some cases, actually, I try to avoid, or at least I have so far, and I probably should stop doing it. But if I'm reading about a case and I think, you know what, it's really clear that they were always pretty much having some mental health issues that did create this, I tend to avoid talking about those ones because these mental health issues, when they are severe, they tend to make themselves known in other ways. But if someone's so capable of eluding authorities, it does imply that they may have the mental capacity to understand right from wrong.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Concur.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm just very good at bum tongue.
You are. So good and such that you gave me a cold.
Oh, is that how you got the cold? Because I was the one performing the bum tongue.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't realise that. I thought it must have gone the other way around. But okay, whatever.
Hey, Tara.
Barney.
I was thinking about that, he killing people with a sledgehammer. And those...
Were you thinking about doing it socially, or are you just thinking about it as a
Well,
concept?
I just, how terrifying that would be. Your last moments.
Oh, yeah. Fuck me.
And I think this is what goes through the families of victims' minds too.
Well, you'd wonder what they went through.
What their last moments would be.
Yeah, yeah.
And that made me think of this TED Talk I was watching the other day.
It's not about the movie Ted with the talking teddy bear, is it? Because that's not a TED Talk, Barney.
That's no.
No, you know that?
I know that now.
Yeah, well, yeah, after the second one, it started to clue in.
And it's not about Ted Danson.
I know. That was actually quite disappointing to learn. And it's not about Ted Bundy either.
Anyway, I was watching this TED Talk and they had this paramedic on and he was talking about people's last moments, because he comes across people that have, been severely injured in cars and stuff. And, a lot of people will say, am I going to die? Am I going to be okay? Mm-hmm. And the first few years, he would always say to them, yeah, sure. Yeah, you're going to be fine.
You'll be great, mate. You'll be running a marathon next month.
But he changed his mind after a couple of years. Because he thought it'd be better to actually say, look, we've done everything we can. I'm sorry, you're not going to make it.
Well, this doesn't sound true.
And he said that the look of peace that comes over their face when they know that they're going to die.
Does he only tell it to people who are going to die, or is he telling people with like a broken leg this?
Oh, no, he tells everybody that. No.
That's what it sounded like to me.
No. He just tells the people who are going to die they are going to die.
Whoa.
And wow, it was incredibly moving. Just Google that shit. It's amazing.
Wow. Well, I actually found out something interesting too, because I have to do first aid refreshers for the people that pay me money to pay rent. They're not just normal people; it's a job. But a lot of people in car accidents actually die because their head flops forward and it cuts off their airway. So just tilting someone's head back can like totally save their lives.
Because they're unconscious.
They just sort of asphyxiate.
So yeah, I think for families of victims, just knowing that their last moment, they're not having any peace like that. It's just...
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that's absolutely terrifying, and it would stay with you forever. Also, some of these people who I was talking about, it was actually like their family members who found them.
Oh.
Yeah, and I mean, you wouldn't be able to get that out of your head ever, would you?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So, maybe people should just not kill people and we can have unicorns and everyone can be happy.
Okay, would you like to hear about this siege?
Yeah, see, you're not going to tell a story about unicorns where people don't kill people, are you?
No, I'm not.
All right.
I'm going to start off with a news report from the time.
Oh, this music on this is amazing.
This is Michael Willesee, Leonard.
Oh, hello, Michael. Well, at the moment, we're waiting to pass on the children to the police. We're waiting for the police to get a female constable into the area, so we can pass the children on safely, and then we're here to die.
Leonard, why do you want to die?
Why do I want to die? Because I don't want to go to prison.
Well, if you don't want to go to prison, why have you behaved like this?
Well, they were going to put me in prison for something I didn't do anyway.
In March 1993, Leonard Laybeater, Robert Steele and Raymond Bassett went on a 9-day rampage across Queensland and New South Wales, resulting in taking hostages in a siege in a farmhouse and a hanging rock station near Cangai, near Grafton, New South Wales. The trio had boasted about having killed 5 people in a 2-state murder spree.
Boasted, huh? Who were they boasting to?
How about that then?
It was like, hey, we killed 5 people. All right.
Okay, some of the players. Let's talk about Robert Steele. He's one of the 3. Robert Steele had always wanted to be a policeman. The boy with the mischievous grin idolised a family friend who worked in the police force. They nicknamed him the Gentle Giant.
So he was tall?
Yeah.
Or was it one of those ironic nicknames? Like in Australia, we often call redheaded people Bluey.
Like non-sexy Barney.
Non-sexy Barney, that is ironic because it's a lie.
That's right. He grew up to be very tall for his age, always happy and adventurous. He was a sports-loving kid from the bush. He had won trophies for cricket and footy, and he was proud of his achievements. Well, he had to be because he had to be proud of himself because his father never was. But on Christmas Eve 1984, the 13-year-old Robert was hit by a car while pushing his bike along the side of the road.
Whoops.
Ouch. His skull was fractured and his hip was injured so severely it left him with one leg shorter than the other. So he walked around in circles all the time, apparently.
Oh, like a chicken.
Like a what?
Like a chicken. Don't they do that sometimes?
Yeah. He was left...
The ones in my sex basement do.
Your sex basement?
Full of chickens.
I thought you called it a dungeon.
It depends who I'm talking to.
Fair enough. He was left intellectually impaired and his hopes of ever becoming a police officer were squashed.
Well, also head injuries can really, affect whether or not someone's going to be a bit psychotic later on.
They can. Though, look, I've had head injuries.
And see, point proven.
Robert ran away from home. He had no friends, no one to go to. He admitted he was a loner. He found refuge at a halfway house where he would come to meet the head nurse, a man named Leonard Laybeater.
Aha, he's a nurse.
Leonard was 18 years older with a receding hairline and wild hair. Locals suspected him of being a pedophile, but Robert saw otherwise.
Was he a pedophile?
There's no proof of that.
Right, okay. He was just really befriending teenage boys.
He was just a bit weird, I think. We sort of clicked straight away, Robert later said. I had nowhere else to go and Len helped me.
Okay.
He helped improve my body and mind. The pair became inseparable. They would later be labelled as Leonard and his lieutenant.
He helped improve his body and mind.
Yeah, that sounds
that
a bit off, doesn't it?
Fishy.
They moved into a house together in Sydney's west at Warwick Farm. Leonard began training up his champion to become a fighter and entered him into organised street fights.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Just like street fighting man, bum fights.
That's right. Robert grew to love inflicting pain on others.
Oh, see, I don't think he strengthened up his mind at all.
8 years later, in August 1992, Leonard, Robert and their new friend Raymond Bassett found an ad in the York Peninsula Times newspaper to move into a rundown 19th century sandstone building in the small South Australian town of Boot.
Oh, are you going to play like a fun song and we're going to have a montage of them like doing up the place?
Doesn't work out like that.
Bummer.
Butte had a population of just 300 people, and these strangers could not help but stand out. Leonard had recently been charged with sexually assaulting 2 teenage girls near Adelaide, and Butte seemed like a good place to lie low.
Do we know if he did that? Like, did he sexually assault?
Well, it never got to court.
Yeah, okay. I wonder about that. Because, you know, he does like hanging out with younger people. But
he does.
That could mean anything, I guess.
The 3 men plan to renovate the former local hospital into a hostel for the intellectually and disabled.
Ah, see, that's where the montage happens.
Yeah. It had been a lifelong goal of Leonard's, but their plan to convert the 15-room building was opposed by local police and council. This made Leonard not very happy.
Not very happy, Lenny.
He told locals that the council and the police were victimising him.
Right, because everyone's victimising him? Because
That's right.
he's so special that everyone's going out of their way to victimise him.
That's right. 8 months later, in March 1993, the 3 men suddenly left town, telling one person they had to settle the score with some people. In a dark maroon 1970 Holden Monaro, they took off, eventually rolling into Mount Isa. No one could have known of the stockpile of guns and ammunition they had in the boot of the car.
Ooh, it sounds like a sweet ride, but I'm not sure I like how deadly it is.
Mark Barlow, a 27-year-old Sunshine Coast helicopter pilot, might have seen the men inside that Holden Monaro. He was travelling on his dirt bike on his way to the Northern Territory. Someone spotted him talking to a man in a dark maroon Holden Monaro. A week later, Mark's decomposing body was found lying inside his swag near Corella Creek with a shotgun blast to the head.
Shit, see, and I bet, like, he's not the guy that they were going to settle the score with. Because I bet they don't even settle the score with who they're going to settle the score with. It's just going to be rando violence, right?
Yeah, it seems this way. A swag is like a small tent that you can sort of sleep in, like a sleeping bag with a roof, really.
Yeah, it's pretty Aussie.
It is. So this was Robert's first kill.
Oh, okay. Robert did it.
Meanwhile, in Mackay, 14-year-old Debbie Gale told her mother she was just going out to dinner with some friends for the night. Nothing unusual. Sue would wake up the next day to find her daughter had never returned. She had jumped in the dark maroon Holden Monaro, headed towards the town of Dalby, west of Toowoomba.
So hang on, did she know one of those guys?
She might have just met them that night, I think.
Oh, sweetheart, no.
So they all ran off together and they end up at a caravan park in Dalby. And everyone at the Dalby Caravan Park knew Robbie, Raymond and Debbie well. They seemed like normal, decent, friendly people. So when Greg and Rita Lassar were asked by their 4 children, Lorraine 13, Trevor 11, Tonya 9 and Robert 6, if they could go on a picnic with them to Lake Broadwater, they of course said yes.
Uh-oh.
So they said, come for a swim with us.
Yeah.
The Holden Monaro drove along the dirt road next to the wide blue lake. Robbie, now 22, was in love with the 14-year-old girl from Mackay.
Oh, no, there are laws, there are rules. It's half your age
Debbie.
plus 7. Half your age plus 7 is apparently the rule.
Well, I think if you're 22 and someone's 14, that's a bit off.
Yeah, that's
a lot off.
That's way off. Well, it's actually, it's they're a kid, so that's what you're doing.
Well, they had planned to become Australia's Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh, Jesus.
Robert grabbed her hand to help her out of the car. The pair started kissing and cuddling on the ground.
They're making out on the ground in front of children.
Yeah, the four other children.
That's
A
nice.
gust of wind picked up and unexpectedly blew dirt in her eyes. She barely had time to wipe away the dust when he killed her.
What? He killed his girlfriend. How's he going to be Bonnie and Clyde if he doesn't have a Bonnie?
Robert sat on top of her with wide eyes, the smoking sawn-off shotgun in his hand.
Oh, and in front of the kids.
The Lassar children staring at what had just occurred.
Oh, shit.
Leonard had ordered his lieutenant to kill her. He was becoming jealous of their relationship and so convinced Robert she was going to rat them out to the police.
Oh, my God. Why did they take children with them? This is a terrible place to take children.
This is what Robert said later. She was going to the cops. I did have a strong emotional attachment to her, but as far as I'm concerned, I ain't going to jail for nobody. They stashed her body in a trailer and set alight.
Oh, Jesus. And they've still got all these poor kiddies.
Yeah.
Why did they even ask the kids along? Was this part of their plan, or was it just one of those random things that happened?
So the men put the Lassar children in the back of the Holden Monaro and took off. On Sunday afternoon, a grazier found 13-year-old Lorraine and 6-year-old Robert on the side of the Leichhardt Highway, 100 kilometres west of Dalby.
Oh, they must have been terrified.
They were alive, but the other 2 children, Trevor and Tonya, were not with them.
Shit.
So they just dropped 2 of the kids off.
They're like, okay, 4's too many. The kids would probably be too loud and annoying, right?
Yeah. Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
If you say that one more time, I'm going to kick you out of this car. Probably a good strategy on their
Probably
part.
a good strategy. The 3 men were now on the run. Police were searching for that old Monaro with the 2 child hostages on board, and they knew it. They needed to find another car. So they came across miners Anthony Percival, 50, Robert Miller, 38, and Gordon Currell, 50. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Their bodies were found scattered around Bakers Creek Falls, not far from Armidale, with bullets through each of their heads. Their car had been stolen. Police were now hot on the gunmen's tails. A local service station employee tipped them off when he spotted the 3 men and 2 children driving towards Hanging Rock Station. Police now had them surrounded. Held hostage by psychopaths, Trevor and Tonya Lassar endured a terrifying 2 days during the siege at Hanging Rock Station.
Out 2 whole days. Poor kids.
The siege was infamous for the actions of news reporter Mike Willesee, who was heavily criticised for telephoning the gunmen and speaking with the children while they were being held hostage, whilst live on air.
Oh, my God. Muckraket.
Yeah, and Mike Munro, who was with his news crew, landed a helicopter close to the homestead despite an exclusion on such flights. A Sergeant Henderson later said the media attention the siege attracted initially prevented police to negotiate with Leonard.
Oh, my God. Far out. Did they get in trouble for that?
No fewer than 6 journalists telephoned the Hanging Rock farmhouse, he said, tying up the line while police attempted to speak with them.
Oh, my God. Fucking with, there's people being held hostage and you're just trying to get your story, huh?
Yeah, it's appalling.
Jesus, that's horrible. That could have jeopardized.
So Mike Willesee, this douchebag journalist, this is what he said to them. Even if you've got a legitimate beef with the cops, Leonard, it's a bit tough to go and kill a 14-year-old girl and 3 minors. A way to rile him up.
Well, yeah, actually. Oh, shit, this is just such a bad idea.
And this was beamed live into households across Australia. He had the exclusive.
Oh, right. I bet he had good ratings, but, I mean, still, it's endangering the hostages further. That's just not on. He should be facing criminal charges for that.
We're here to die, said Leonard. Well, they're going to kill me, and I ain't going out without a fight. We're here to die. Then he spoke to Robert Steele. Robert described how he killed the girl, whom he said was pregnant. He said he stabbed her and then shot her in the head. Leonard said that he killed the 2 men because they refused to hand over their car, and the other one when he happened upon them and started asking questions and wouldn't let it go.
Oh, well, it's his fault then, right?
Leonard said, I would rather have been down in South Australia killing cops. That's where I've got my argument.
Oh, whoa. I'd rather be down in South Australia killing cops.
Leonard described himself as a controlled sociopath. I've had homicidal urges all my life, the same as I've had suicidal urges, but I have been able to control them, but I've never been put under the pressure of going to jail for something I didn't do.
Oh, is that about the girls that he's supposed to have interviewed with?
Yeah, sexually assaulted.
Okay.
South Australia. Yeah. He also confessed to the murder of Mark Barlow, 27, who was sleeping by his motorcycle near Mount Isa in Queensland on March 21. In a chilling interview, Steele said he slit his throat and shot him twice in the head for his money.
There's all of this, I don't understand why they're slitting throats when they could just shoot people. I guess they must like slitting throats.
Mike Willesee then asked to speak to the kids.
Oh, of course.
And I'll play you a little bit of that.
Shivers.
When do you think that Leonard will let you go?
When the female police gets here.
You want to go?
Yeah.
You want to get back to your mum and dad?
No, I want to stay here.
Okay. Is your sister happy?
Yeah.
What's her name, Trevor?
Tonya.
What is it?
Tonya.
Tonya. Could I talk to Tonya?
Okay. Hello.
Hello, Tonya. How are you?
Good.
I'm Mike Willesee, Tonya. Are you okay?
Yeah.
So this is when the police are trying to get through.
Oh my God, I'm gobsmacked by this.
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's appalling.
It's such a fucking ratings grab. It's so cynical. Also, is your sister happy? Yeah, she's having the fucking time of her life being in a hostage situation. She doesn't want to leave ever.
So they've been holed up in the farmhouse for close to 24 hours now. The gunman had released... eventually, the gunman released the 2 child hostages, claiming Leonard's religion forbade him from killing children under 12.
Oh, well, that's lucky. Shame it didn't also, mean that he didn't want to kill children who were 14, but okay.
Yeah, Raymond Bassett came out with his hands up. He just said, I don't want any more part of this.
Yeah, it was fun being
This is
you guys'
cray-cray.
friend, but it's kind of like taking a shitty turn and I'm out of here.
The siege ended 2 hours later when Leonard took his own life. Leonard Leadbeater's body was found lying on and covered by blood-spattered bedclothes. A half-smoked cigarette still clenched in his fingers of his right hand. A shotgun was lying next to what remained of his head. Half a dozen rifles were found in the kitchen and a series of notes to police, which I couldn't find.
Dear
Probably
coppers, you suck.
Yeah, something like that. But they were identified as being Leonard's handwriting.
Wow, and what about the giant guy? What happened to him?
He was taken alive.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, what's his name again?
Is he Robert?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then what?
So Robert Steele was taken alive.
Yeah.
Raymond was sentenced in a Supreme Court in Armidale to 14 years jail with a non-parole period of 8 years for the murder of Anthony Percival. That was one of the minors.
Right, okay.
The Lucia children returned home to their parents in Dalby, and I'm sure they're still having nightmares about their experience.
Oh my God, so terrifying for them.
As for Robert Steele, the gentle giant, he became the youngest...
He's not gentle, fuck that shit.
He became the youngest person to be sentenced to spend, for the term of his natural life, behind bars. 5 consecutive life sentences, plus 12 years without parole. Robert reportedly smiled when they handed down the sentence.
Right, well, he's not very bright, is he?
8 months later, he was found hanging in his cell.
Oh, okay.
He took his own life.
Yeah.
Later, an inquest into the events, it was reported Leonard Leadbeater had forecast his own death, warning his sister in early 1991 that he would die in the fourth month of 1993, and that he was a religious prophet of the spirit Astra, and his death was a planned religious event.
A planned religious event, so it's on some calendars probably, right?
Yeah, there's an advent calendar.
Well, it was planned by him, though. I mean, it wasn't like, fate decided. I mean, he killed himself, right? So that's not exactly like foothold.
Well, he further stated that it would not look like he killed himself, but that a warlock had done it.
And is that how it looked? Did it look like a freaking warlock had done it?
No, it would be a sacrifice at a place like an altar, and there would be no way out, and that he would be surrounded. And he also said, keep an eye on the television.
Right. Wow. Okay.
During my research of this, Tara, there's a lot of news reports, and I found one by Simon Townsend.
Oh, well, Simon Townsend's Wonderworld, for those of you in Australia.
Well, he used to do, children's programming, but he did a current affair kind of stuff, and he was banging on about it and saying this was the greatest journalism we've ever seen in Australia.
Are you fucking kidding me? Simon Townsend is down with this? Jesus Christ.
He was just... He was doing lots of bum tongue with Mike Willisey, I gotta tell you.
Oh my God, really? How could he say this was good?
But he had 2 other journalists on his show, James Valentine and Julia Gardner, and they disagreed with what he was saying.
Well, rightly so.
Do you want to hear a clip of that?
Fuck yeah.
But you're celebrating Michael Willisey's journalism there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only concerned with getting the good story. The only thing he wanted to do last night was make great television.
And he made it.
Yeah.
No, your support of this type of journalism really makes me angry. It's like everything's sacrificed to get the good story. The journalist becomes some kind of hero. What I'd like to know is who cleans up afterwards. Who takes responsibility for what happens afterwards.
That's right. He can just bow out. Once the story's done.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the end of his involvement, right? Unless he wants to do a fucking follow-up.
The arrogance of that guy.
I know. Also, tying up a phone line. I mean, this is before mobiles. It's not like they had another way to get in touch with this guy. Tying up a phone line that a hostage negotiator needs to use to try and free the children.
Yeah.
I feel like criminal charges could pretty much be laid because of this. Imagine if it hadn't gone the way he wanted it to and those kids were killed. I mean, surely he's just lucky that the outcome of this whole thing turned out the way it did.
Well, later, Mike Willisey tried to defend his actions to... he had a child psychologist, a Dr. Brent Waters, on his show. This clip goes for about 5 minutes, but it's pretty good.
Okay, yeah. Let's hear it.
Among the most vocal critics today was child psychiatrist Brent Waters, who challenged us to let him state his case on air. I'm joined now by Professor Waters. Professor, you say you were appalled. Why?
Firstly, the impact, the fear that it will cause in many of the very large primary school
aged audience that you've got at that time of night.
We're dealing with horror here. For example, a 14-year-old girl being stabbed and shot dead, and the viewers, including the children, hear that and see the remains of the body being removed. That's horror, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes.
How did we take that any further in terms of horror?
Well, firstly, you interviewed 2 young girls at a time when they didn't know that they were going to be rescued. The whole context of it was a typical situation.
But the children watching then knew those children were free. They weren't afraid for those children.
Oh, yes,
we gave them no more horror, and they knew the children were free.
Yeah. What children do, though, is they think, when will this happen to me? What's the danger in my neighbourhood?
What else upset you?
Well, the second thing was the questioning of the young children. At the time that occurred, they didn't know that they were going to be rescued. And you talked about things to them which could very easily have amplified their fears. The fact that one of the people had already killed, for instance. In retrospect, of course, we know that it turned out well, but it could easily not have turned out like that. And in any event, we don't know how much that interviewing itself has further imprinted that terrifying experience on the minds of those children and how that's going to reverberate through their lives from now on.
Do you understand that yesterday morning when I did that, there were radio reports that one child was dead and the other may be dead?
Yes.
And the question I put to that man was, can I speak to the children? I was concerned to see if they were alive, and if they were they safe?
Well, I mean, I guess you make a judgment about whether you want to be the news or whether you want to report on the news. In this instance, you are being the news.
Exactly.
I discovered those children were alive. And I received a promise they'd be freed, and that happened 45 minutes later. What else concerned you?
The third concern that I had was the danger that a hostage incident like this, if reported too closely, that there's always the risk that psychologically unstable people will imitate and that it'll spawn a sort of a mini epidemic, if you like, of hostage incidents. Some of them immediately, in some of them you simply...
But the only way you stop that is by not reporting the horror of those 4 murders.
Oh, no, I think that you can report them in such a way that people don't think that, boy, this is the way I'll get on national television from coast to coast.
They were on national television.
The Waco thing is a good example of that. You know, I think that is an extraordinarily risky situation where... And in the United States, of course, we see what seems to be a rolling tide of incidents like this. And the alarming thing is in Australia, it seems to be happening in the same sort of way.
If you're worried about other psychopaths in the community doing copycat behaviour, surely the very act of the murders and the reporting of them, isn't that enough? If you're going to trigger those people, there it is.
No, I don't think so. These sort of people, most of them, are people who feel very inadequate. They've got a real chip on their shoulder, and this is a time when they can have an instant of glory for some of them. I mean, they're not all notoriety seekers.
Professor, I'd put it to you that the only way we can take out complete insurance against that is don't report these events.
No, I think that you report them in a different kind of way. You've got guidelines yourself about how to stand back from these things and report them in a way that doesn't overly sensationalise them, that doesn't romanticise and sensationalise the perpetrators themselves. And the interesting thing to me...
But surely when an incident like that is sensational, you don't sensationalise it, it is sensational.
No, that's not true. You know as well as I do that you use all kinds of editing devices and use of voiceovers in contrast with pictures, live glare, all of this sort of techniques.
We didn't do that last night.
Well, you did. I mean, what you did was you had the voiceover of the children at the same time as you had the children's pictures there. Now, certainly in children's minds, I'm talking just about the impact on children here. In children's minds, when the image is there of a child who is their age, it's like them looking at the mirror, it is very easy for them to say, that could happen to me. I'm going to really have to watch myself and have nightmares that night and for the next few nights and be clinging with their parents and all the sorts of things which I'm sure that are going to happen or have already happened in a lot of instances. Every time there's an incident like this, child psychiatrists and psychologists have a rush of terrified kids.
Good for business.
You mean such murders or such interviews?
Well, murders, all sorts of horrifying incidents that are portrayed on TV in such a way.
That's the real problem, isn't it?
Well, I think it is, and as I say, I think that you've got a mechanism in place. You're supposed to be self-regulating, and I don't understand what happened in this instance. Perhaps you can tell me what sort of self-regulatory procedures occurred in this instance.
Norma, we really believe that we did and acted properly, but clearly we don't have time to argue that now.
No.
But you've had your say. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. Child psychiatrist, Professor Brent Waters. Next up, controversial film star Sharon Stone.
Oh, Sharon Stone. Not controversial compared to that, you aren't, Shazza.
So, Mike Willisey is a bag of dicks, I've
He's
decided.
incredibly fucking arrogant, isn't he?
Oh, the hubris on him is amazing.
Yeah. And when asked to actually justify, he's still, well, we don't have time for that.
Let me put this into context for you, Tara. This has happened in 1993, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is when there was no internet around.
No.
You come home from school, you watch the telly.
Yeah.
With your parents. This show was on at 6 p.m, Current Affairs, straight
yeah.
after the
So
news.
if your folks were into that sort of thing, you were watching it whether you liked it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And normally it was a lot lighter, actually. It wasn't a very heavy show, particularly.
No.
But obviously he was trying to put on his big boy journalist pants. Also the fact that he thinks that he's the one that found out that the children weren't dead. I'm sure that a police negotiator could have also found out such things. I mean, it's not his fucking job.
He's not a trained negotiator.
No.
That could have easily gone south.
He said some really inflammatory stuff too.
And also the stuff that he said to the kids was just newsy kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah,
It wasn't about trying to get them out.
No, I don't believe that it was helpful. I think he was just sucking his own dick.
I think it's appalling.
Yeah, fuck that.
And, this stuff still goes on.
Well, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know about this whole Willisey thing. I thought he wasn't that bad, but I've changed my tune.
Well, he put himself into the story.
Well, yeah.
Instead of reporting on the story.
Well, he probably got a bonus for it too. I'm sure the
he
network
did.
were patting him on the back. I'm just curious, though, in a parallel world, if those kids hadn't made it out alive, do you reckon that would have killed his career?
Oh, who knows?
Well, I fucking hope so.
I mean, it made for some pretty compelling television.
Oh, yeah, it would have really rated
but
well.
Is it right? Well,
No,
I don't think it isn't.
Because
I
it's
don't
not
think
right.
it is.
Tying up phone lines when there's negotiators trying to work things out is definitely not right.
Well, I'm glad we have an accord on this.
I know, because we normally fight about the deep stuff.
Yeah, we do.
so darkly.
Well, Lady Bumtongue, it must be time for some Aussie ads.
All right. Bumtongue, you know what's funny? We haven't even, we used to joke about it. It's essentially salad tossing people. We used to joke about it years ago, and then we just forgot about it. But then when you said that I gave you my cold, it just all came back. It came flooding back, and
all
now
the Bumtongue came flooding back.
and now I just can't forget it. So I'm going to do an Aussie as. These are stories of criminal stupidity with a quintessentially Australian flavour.
Pig's ass.
You stinking bastard. There's a Cree Indian proverb that says, only when the last tree has died and the last river been poisoned and the last fish been caught will we realise that we cannot eat money. Wise words, right?
That sounds fair.
Yeah, well, 34-year-old Robert Holm either hadn't heard the proverb or he had and he decided to try it anyway. In December 2004, Robert mugged a woman in Sydney and stole $800 from her. His getaway car got stuck in traffic, and witnesses to the mugging joined forces, and they all held the doors of his car closed while they waited for police. I think that's a pretty cool Aussie community thing.
I'm not trying to be a hero, mate, but the police are coming.
So they held his doors shut. When police arrived, they found Robert in a not too healthy state. And then, much to their surprise, he started puking up $50 bills until he reached a total of $600. So he's like a human ATM. He'd come up with a genius idea to hide the evidence of the robbery by eating the money.
It actually sounds like a pretty good idea. Actually,
I don't know. Money is filthy. It's dirty.
Yeah,
everyone germing all over it, mate.
It just happened in 2004? Did you say?
It was 2004. So it would have been the plasticky money.
Would have been the plastic money that we have here.
Oh, you probably thought he could shit it up later, right?
Yeah.
Because our money's really plasticky, and you could probably just rinse it off. So yeah, he thought he'd hide the evidence by eating the money. Another couple of notes were found stuck between his butt cheeks when he was taken to hospital.
Well,
in
it would have been
custody.
two. Would have been two because I did the math. Because you said he threw up 600.
Yeah, and they're $50 bills, so it would have been
four.
4 between the cheeks.
Right, so he just shoved them up in the...
shoved them up his clacker, mate.
Nice.
And ate the others.
And
then puked them up again. So yeah, that's the Aussie as this week. I think the Cree Indian may have had a point. I mean, they do have a point.
That's some story.
Yeah. All the murder, all the mayhem, all the avoiding of train tracks from henceforth.
Well, I think we're about done.
I reckon you're right.
I've been Barney Black.
And I've been Tara Saraban.
And we just did some bloody murder.
Please don't forget to review us on iTunes.
And, of course, rate and subscribe. It really helps us.
Yep, join our Facebook group, Bloody Murder Podcast, if you want.
Yeah, and follow us on Twitter.
Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week.
And don't forget, all of our links are in the notes of this show.
Absolutely. If you want to link anything about us, you'll find them there.
Yeah.
Link Bush City Limits.
You're an idiot.
I know.
Goodbye and adios.
And keep kicking against the pricks.
So, if you're up for some bun tongue later?
Yeah, I can't remember how to do it, but let's give it a shot.
All right.
I actually do like those fade outs.
Lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.